Good morning, everyone. I think most of you in attendance know me, but for those of you who don't, my name's Paul Taylor and I'm a sales manager at Minster Micro. It's my role to ensure that both myself and our account managers keep you all updated with all things IT. This morning's session has certainly been a hot topic over recent years, but especially of late due to the ever-changing cyber threat landscape. So let's meet today's hosts. Amy Poulton is part of my team and a senior dedicated account manager with a wealth of knowledge in IT security. Mark Fletcher is part of the infrastructure engineer team, and most of you have probably spoken to Mark on support, or you've actually met him if he's been on site installing equipment for you. Here's the agenda of what Mark and Amy are going to be covering off. What is cybercrime? Amy will give you a history and an overview of cybercrime, making your working day more secure. Mark's going to walk you through a typical day and how cybercrime may affect you. We're all familiar with the attacks on the NHS a few years ago, due to having out-of-date, unsupported operating systems, leaving them completely vulnerable and open to attack. More recently, however, Microsoft have been under attack. What seemingly began as a targeted hack on government agencies and large enterprises turned into a huge zero-day Microsoft Exchange attack for on-premise servers. It was a Microsoft vulnerability that allowed hackers to take advantage of an Exchange server flaw. It appears that threat actors had been planting web shells that enable administrative access and the ability to steal data as far back as January. Victims were targeted through their self-hosted Outlook Web Access Manager. Cloud-based Outlook accounts, and for those of you already using Microsoft 365, have remained secure. Now, here at Minster, we have worked with just a small number of customers that were affected by this. And we responded really quick once we had the security update release from Microsoft. That was applied to our customers' on-premise Exchange servers to ensure that any disruption was kept to a minimum. And to date, we've had some really good feedback from our customers on minimising disruption and getting them updated. We've also recently gone through the Cyber Essentials accreditation, and we'll discuss this with you should you be wanting to do it yourselves. The team really have some good information to share with you this morning, and on that note, let me hand you over to Amy.
Thank you, Paul. Hi, everyone. As Paul said, I'm Amy Poulton, account manager here at Minster. Thank you for joining us this morning. I will go over some information on cybercrime. In the last 12 months, the National Crime Agency have reported almost 46%, so nearly half of businesses. Also, a quarter of charities have reported cyber security breach or attacks. Out of those 46%, 1 in 5 experienced an outcome where they either had a loss of data or money. It suggested the average cost to a business who have been impacted by a cyber attack is £13,400. 2 out of those 5 businesses were negatively impacted by a cyber attack, where staff had to be diverted elsewhere, causing wider business disruption and requiring new measures to be put into place. Something key here at Minster we feel is important to understand is the risk element and how this is managed internally for each company. For example, the value of your downtime per day or per week, maybe per department. What if the business is unable to function for one day? How long can this go on for? What would this mean to your business, and how does this impact your reputation? Have you considered looking at cyber insurance? What is cybercrime? Let's have a look and an overview of cybercrime and how this has developed over time. If we look back at one of the first recordings of an internal hack, this was by John T. Draper. John cleverly discovered a whistle from a Cap'n Crunch cereal box made the same tone and frequency used to indicate a trunk line was available, and he was able to make free long distance calls. Another early hacker who was convicted of the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act was Robert Morris in 1988. He deployed one of the first computer worms that found a weakness in a Unix system, and at the time he infected 6,000 computers out of the 60,000 that were connected to the internet. Robert's exploit inspired the creation of the governmental Anti-Cyber and Terrorism Department. If we go over some of the most common forms of cybersecurity hacks that we see now. Phishing. Phishing is a social engineering attack used to steal data, such as login credentials or credit card numbers. It occurs when an attacker masquerades as a trusted entity, maybe your bank or PayPal. It then tricks the victim into opening an email or a hyperlink, giving away their credentials. Ransomware. Ransomware is a type of software that can lock your computer and then demand a ransom. In most cases, the malware first gains access to the device, then depending on the type of ransomware, it either encrypts the entire operating system or just individual files, then asks for a ransom. The ransom asked is normally money to then release back the files or operating system. A well-known ransomware attack was WannaCry, as Paul mentioned back in 2017, impacting the NHS. Also CryptoLocker, where they asked for ransom to be paid in Bitcoin. Worms. Worms are normally transmitted via vulnerabilities. Computer worms could arrive as attachments in emails. Then once opened, the files could contain a link to a malicious website or then automatically download a computer worm to your computer. Once installed, the worm silently goes to work and infects the machine without the user's knowledge. It makes copies of itself over and over, depleting system resources, such as hard drive space or bandwidth, by overloading the network, like the attack I mentioned earlier by Robert Morris. A botnet brute force attack. Bots receive a list of pairing username and passwords. The bots try to authenticate the given credentials against designated IPs, for example, a company's network or website logon. This is all automated, and then if successful, it reports back. If not, it will continue its journey to try other IP addresses. I think we'll all have used that I'm not a robot capture on websites. This is to try and tell the difference between humans and then the robots. This is just a few examples of malware that you may have heard of. We've put together a few pointers and measures that you can implement a layered security approach, and Mark is now going to run through your working day.
Thank you, Amy. Morning, everyone. I'm Mark from Minster. I'm one of the infrastructure engineers here. Let's talk about the working day and how we can make your business more secure. So, first thing when we get into the office. Okay, second after making a drink and having a chat. Logging in. If you're an office-based user, you'll normally have a PC or a laptop. This always needs to be on a supported operating system by Microsoft or Apple, such as Windows 10 or Mac OS. If you're using Windows 7 or Windows XP, these are now end of life and are no longer receiving security updates. We need to ensure these are taken off the system as soon as possible. So let's start with the basics, passwords, and a couple of things to think about. So how many people do you think use the same passwords for every application? Also, how many people do you think use password 123 or similar? Let me show you how many times password 123 has been used. This password appears over 125,000 times in a database of leaked passwords. How long would this take a brute force attack to hack your PC if your password was set to this? 6 seconds. And they're in your system and all of your data. So let's see a secure password and see how different the figures are. As you can see, this takes a lot longer than 6 seconds. And as much as I'd like to show you this password, this will also get you into my bank account. There are a couple of things we can do to ensure that we have strong passwords, and also stuff that we can educate our users with. Avoid using common words such as months of the year, people's names. We advise changing passwords on a regular basis. This could be every 30 to 90 days. Ensure that your password is a minimum of 8 characters long, uses upper and lowercase characters, includes numbers and symbols. All of these we've heard before when creating passwords. Try not to use personal passwords for any work-related accounts. And most importantly, ensure that your password isn't shared with others. But don't make them so difficult that you forget them. Write it down on a post-it note and stick it on your screen. That defeats the object, but we've all done it before. So, two-factor authentication solutions, or 2FA. You're probably all aware of how to use these to access your banks and other applications, where you need a second level of security to gain access. This could be a PIN number sent to a mobile phone or the use of a card reader when we're accessing a bank. Also, we use this to gain access to companies' infrastructure. Here at Minster, we use and offer a mobile authentication app called Duo. So let's see how this 2FA works. We log into the machine as normal. As you can see, we then get a pop-up that asks us to verify. There are 3 ways that we can do this: using the app installed on a smartphone or smartwatch, an automated phone message, or a passcode sent to us via text message. This time, we'll use push notification. As you can see, we'll now get a notification to your phone. We click it. We then see that a connection is trying to be made. This also gives us a location, a time, and a date. We click approve, and we're now into our desktops. Why? Why is this so important if it looks so simple? Think of this. No one can access your desktop system without you knowing. If a hacker somehow guesses your new strong password, they'll never get the information for the multi-factor authentication. Now, let's move on to emails. The most common way a hacker is going to enter your system. Fact time. Forbes suggests that a huge 320 billion spam emails are sent each day. Yes, every day. And IBM suggests that 94% of malware is delivered by email, and it takes a single click, unfortunately. It's as simple and as scary as that. Let us look at this email. Here is a typical spam email. The email suggests it's from paypal.com. But if we look closer, the email address has actually come from ptc.client, etc. As you can see, this is not at paypal.com. It begins with a generic greeting. Dear user, hello PayPal member. PayPal will always use your first and last name or the business name that the PayPal account is registered to. How do I know this? The same as most of IT know-how. Google. If you're unsure, Google it. How can I tell if this email is genuine from PayPal? For example. Moving on. At the bottom of the email, there's a hyperlink to PayPal. If you hover over it with your mouse, it will come up with a web page that it's about to open. In this instance, I think we can all agree that this won't open paypal.com. I hope this helps to see what we can look for in the future. Before the email even gets into a user's mailbox, we can put in place Mail Protect. This helps when it comes to intercepting spam emails before they even get into your company. It's a cloud-based real-time threat protection solution, collating information on email threats from all over the world. Over 23 million active mailboxes are monitored to help defend against spam, phishing emails, and spoof emails. As you can see here, in this Mail Protect report, a mail has been quarantined that it believes is spam. Look at the subject. clever, on topic, 17th of May. We're all aware that there was a big COVID announcement to say that we can meet indoors, etc. But Mark, we're an engineering company. I'd have known that this was spam. Maybe so. But what happens if you work in the hospitality industry? See, easily clicked. Each user has the ability to use release emails if they're genuine. They can be added to a thing called the whitelist. But if it's spam like this, the email address can be blocked and the email deleted. So now we get to lunchtime. Most of us sit at our desks and eat. What do your staff look at when they're on the web? Do you mind? Do they look at BBC News? Probably check the weather. Or do they go on things like Bet365 and other gambling sites? Is that a concern to you? We have a solution specifically looking at web-based security. One of the things you can manage is the type of websites that are available. As you can see at Minster, all the following are blocked. And rightly so. Do you mind your staff looking at social media, but want it to be at selected times, such as lunch times and break times? Schedule is a fantastic way to manage this. Groups can be created. For instance, everybody in the marketing team can access the platforms all day, but the guys on the shop floor cannot. Little things like this to stop that one wrong click ending up in a virus entering the system. Time to go home. Yes, he's almost finished. But wait, before you all rush off, let's talk backup. Something that's massively overlooked. Not only does backup protect you against natural disasters, floods, fires, equipment hardware failures, it is also extremely important if we ever need to restore your data back to your server due to a cyber attack. A cyber attack can mean that a business is unable to work and the longer you are unable to process orders and complete your day-to-day tasks, the more money it costs you. The quicker we can get you back online, the less of an impact it has to your business and your reputation. As mentioned previously, the average cyber attack can cost a business in the region of £13,000. Minster can help offer with a robust backup solution with an on-premise or the new cloud-based backup solutions for all your recovery requirements. Having an effective disaster recovery solution is so important to every organisation in gaining access back to your system as quickly as possible. Hopefully this has given you an insight into the inner workings of your day that you may have not thought about. I'll pass you back to Paul for roundup, and thank you all for listening.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Mark. I just wanted to say apologies a little earlier. I think we might have had a few sound problems. So what we're going to do is we'll get this session re-recorded separately and get it distributed out to all of you as well. So I hope you found this morning's session beneficial. Before we go, I just want to hand you over to our MD, Susan Marlowe, who wants to say a few words around cyber essentials and also patch management as well.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you everyone for taking the time out of your busy diaries to join us today. I must thank Mark and Amy for their presentations, and as Paul said, we had a little bit of sound issues, so we'll get those re-recorded and sent out. But there was a lot of really interesting stuff in there, good hints and tips, and a lot of food for thought, I hope, for you. We've been working with several of our customers over the past 12 months, giving them a cyber health check. And I think the most important takeaway is that you need to put in as many layers of protection as possible. So some of the tools we've spoken about today, such as two-factor authentication and Mail Protect software, help with spam and phishing and so forth, they're really powerful layers to add into your cybersecurity plan. Education of our users is hugely important too, and we've run several bespoke sessions for customers to help them do this. And again, going back to the layers of protection, that's what it's all about. So as Paul mentioned earlier, Minster became Cyber Essentials accredited last year. We felt it's a really essential part of doing this because it's, everything we do and everything we plan to do IT wise, as an IT provider, it's really relevant to us. The point, however, of Cyber Essentials accreditation is to help you identify which of your systems and your processes and operations for your business are potential areas of vulnerability that hackers and other cyber criminals can exploit, and these can cause security breaches and damage to your business, obviously costing you money through downtime and even your reputation. As you'd expect, when we became Cyber Essentials certified, it was a ticking exercise. We already have regular updates with our staff to keep them alert and well educated, of course, and we regularly have our system updated so it's fully patched at all times. So we use the latest software and tools to add these extra layers that I've already mentioned. More recently, several of our customers have been asked by their own customers and supply chain to become Cyber Essentials accredited. And this is becoming more and more commonplace as a request by blue chip companies who want their own supply chain to have this certification. So if your business is trading with one of these organisations and you want to carry on trading with them, it's likely that you will be asked to become Cyber Essentials accredited as well. Now, all this may seem really big brother and maybe a little over the top, but if you haven't experienced cybercrime yourself, you know, a virus, for example, that stopped you working, or ransomware, which is particularly terrifying, it would be understandable. But as more and more businesses encounter these situations, you can see why these big companies are demanding their suppliers have this in place. So, you know, these larger companies are already interacting with maybe yourselves, their suppliers, customers through automated systems, and more of them are doing more e-commerce and EDI transactions than ever before. And this is obviously sending and receiving data into their key business systems and their critical data. So the links with their suppliers and customers are exposing them to the same vulnerabilities that we already have as smaller businesses. I mean, can you imagine what a cyber criminal could do if they gained access to Jaguar Land Rover's ordering system? You know, they could send phantom orders out to JLR's entire supply chain and add fake orders to the production line to create hundreds of cars with no real customers at the end. Doesn't bear thinking about, does it? So the more we can protect ourselves and our businesses, the more protected we all become. You could liken it to a vaccination programme, which is quite apt considering where we are today with COVID-19 and the pandemic. So only by vaccinating en masse, we're now able to safely return to life as we know it. So it's very much the same with protection and layers like we're talking about today. Now, Paul also mentioned patch management, which I'll just cover in brief before I go. So in line with this layered approach to security that we're recommending, we've been offering Minster customers the opportunity to move away from the traditional break-fix maintenance. Obviously, this was sufficient in the past, it worked very well, but it's no longer enough. Our patch management solution is an important example of this layered approach to cybersecurity protection. So Microsoft release patches or updates every month, and these address issues or potential issues that have been found with their software and systems. Now, Paul mentioned 0 day earlier, and as you can imagine, Microsoft are targeted by hackers 24/7, and they've literally hundreds of developers working day and night to try and hack their own systems, and then obviously they write patches and fixes to address anything they find. So as a Microsoft partner, Minster has access to these, and as part of our patch management service, we then apply them to customers' network systems. So this is becoming a vital part of the proactive and managed IT services we're providing. It's time consuming. We have to test each of the updates and then apply them to business systems, to the customers' networks outside of core business hours. And this is to ensure that you as the customer, you don't lose performance or experience business interruptions. So along with all our managed services, patch management has evolved as a direct result of the threats each of our businesses face day to day. And as cyber criminals continue to threaten our livelihoods, we need to stay ahead and be smarter. So on that note, I'll hand back to Paul. Just want to, say thank you again to the team for today, and obviously have a chat with Paul or one of the Amy's, if you want to take this further. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Susan. That's great. So in conclusion, here are a few takeaways. Employee negligence compromises network security, and it's one of the biggest threats. So make sure that passwords are changed. So that was a really good overview and demonstration that Mark gave us earlier. Poor email security poses major threats. The cyber criminals are getting more and more intelligent now to actually get around some of the antivirus protection and some of the anti-spam and anti-malware protection as well. So make sure you're educating your end users. Make sure they don't react to suspicious emails. Downtime can cripple business, and cyber attacks can cause a loss of customer trust as well, particularly if your systems are down. Most companies avoid encryption, so that was a good overview that Mark gave us earlier of some of the multi-factor authentication tools that are available, obviously like Duo that we can talk to you about directly. Mobile phones can cause security breaches, and most cyber threats can be prevented. So I'm just looking at the time. We are getting close to the end of today's half-an-hour session. So I think we've got time for a couple of questions. We've had a few sent in already this morning, but if any of you have any other questions, please drop us an email in directly or talk to your account manager directly. So let's just have a quick look. Okay, how can we change the passwords for all users?
Yeah, technical, that'll be me then.
Cheers, Mark.
So most of our customers have servers on site, the big box that sits in the corner that no one knows anything about. All of the user accounts are held in something called Active Directory. We can go into Active Directory, select all users, or even just selected users, and force people to change their passwords the next time they log on. It's as easy as that, Paul.
That's great stuff, Mark. No, thanks very much. Okay, let's have a look. How long does it take to get the Cyber Essentials accreditation? I'll take that one if that's okay, everyone. It's really a good question, actually, but it is a bit of how long is a piece of string. It really depends on your current setup. There's a lot of things that you have to take into account. Obviously, you're on premise or you're hosted IT network infrastructure, but also, do you have multiple locations? Do you have remote workers? Are your users using company laptops, or are they using their own devices? Bring your own device, as it's termed. What about mobile phones? And obviously, underpinning all of this is about company data and security of company data, how secure it is. We've worked with a company recently, as Susan alluded to a little earlier, and it took just under about 2 months, in all fairness. But it really depends on your own setup. So if it's something that your supply chain, your customers are asking you about, let us know, and we can certainly come out and talk to you about that face to face, and obviously help you with some of the areas around your own infrastructure that form part of the Cyber Essentials questionnaires that you need to get completed, really. We'll also get your account managers to do a follow-up after today's event to arrange to come out and see you and do an on-site IT security health tech session with you as well. And as I mentioned, we'll get this re-recorded straight after the event now, and we'll get it redistributed out to everyone as well for those sound interruptions earlier. So on that note, I hope you found it beneficial. Thanks for everyone involved in today, and thanks everyone for taking the time out to join us on the webinar. And goodbye and stay safe, everyone.
Bye.
Take care.